Welcome to the show, everyone. I'm your host, Jay, and today I have the absolute honor of sitting down with our 16th Sergeant Major of the Army, Mr. Michael Grinston. This conversation is personal and powerful because it's about something every soldier should understand: the Army Emergency Relief Program, or as we know it, the AER. For decades, AER has been there in our toughest moments, helping soldiers, families, retirees, and survivors get through financial hardships, but many still don't know how deep it actually impacts lives. Today, we're pulling back the curtain and going deep into what AER really stands for, beyond the paperwork, beyond the stigma, and into how it's changing lives across the force. Sergeant Major, welcome to the show, sir.
Oh, awesome. Thanks for having me.
All right, question number one, we all want to know, beyond the uniform, what moment or experience in your personal life shaped the way you led soldiers and your approach towards programs like AER today?
That's a great question. I think beyond the uniform, that's really good, is really, how I grew up as a kid. My mom was a single parent. I'd say we didn't have much, I didn't feel like we were poor though. It's like, it was just, you didn't have things, there were other people who had a lot more than you did, but, we still had food on the table. We know we worked hard and that's who we were. It's as you watch your single parent mom, like literally deliver newspapers. That's what she did for 40 years. So, just a lot of hard work. And she instilled discipline in us and expected extreme discipline
Right.
and expected a lot of hard work. And that kind of just carried over to who I am today. Somebody that I like to say I'm still pretty disciplined. Says the guy that got up at 4 o'clock this morning, still working out. So, so
Nice,
yeah. And
nice.
then a lot of hard work. Yeah.
Perfect. Question number two. When boots come off and the mission slows down, what drives you now? What does purpose look like for you after serving at the highest level of the Army?
Well, it's really AER, it's pretty simple. I still get to help soldiers and their families. That's the greatest purpose. But there is a really famous quote made by my wife, is right after I'd retired in August, she said, I was doing some stuff around the house, and she goes, I figured it out. It wasn't the Army, it was you. So, so I've been known to be extreme, working hard and after I destroyed most of the house, and the good news is I put it back together. I rebuilt it. It looks
Good,
good.
good, good.
So he's like, you need to find a job like right now. So I have this extreme sense of drive and hard work. I've been doing it my whole life, like I said, growing up with my mom. But I thought maybe, kind of slow down. It's like, no, I like being active. I like working. But the purpose to help soldiers and their families, it's just a joy. Every day I wake up and go, man, everything that I do at the end of the day, I know that I'm working hard to help soldiers and their families.
Oh, we love that. And we really do appreciate everything you are doing, and all the things that happen behind the scenes that a lot of people really don't know about, which is the whole purpose of getting on this interview. So we can get a little bit of that insight. So, Sergeant Major, from your perspective as a senior leader, what does AER truly represent to you? Not just as a financial assistance program, but as part of the Army's overall mission to take care of its people.
Yeah, I mean, it's as simple as we build readiness. It's like, sounds so simple, and we prevent things. So I'll talk about the readiness at first. I mean, imagine that, and this is a true story. So I called this, thought I was calling a soldier. So I called a soldier, but the spouse answered and she said, and I said, well, how's AER? How'd we do for you? Because I do that every once in a while. People don't think it's me. It's like, is this really the CEO? Or it's like, they hang up on me. So a lot of funny stuff. So she answered and I said, anything else you needed? And she goes, no, I'm really happy with AER, but I just don't know how I'm going to put food on the table before the first. And I said, well, in about an hour, somebody's going to call you from the headquarters. And I went to Charles, who runs our assistance, said, call call the family and see what we could do. And we ended up giving her a $250 grant for food, make sure she had food on the table. But the backside of that was the soldier was at NTC.
Ah,
So that's how we build rest. I mean, they go, what'd you call the brigade commander? No, I didn't actually. Not at all. We just made sure that that spouse didn't have to call the brigade commander or the battalion commander or the first sergeant, the squad leader, or whoever they had to call. And
right.
so that's kind of, how I build readiness is that that's one thing you didn't have to worry about at that moment. So you could stay focused while you're out the National Training Center trying to do your wartime mission. So that's really the readiness side. And then the prevention of things is I truly believe that we could be helping in all kinds of areas that you don't even know, like suicide. I put a lot of effort in the Army with reducing suicide when I was SMA. And when I really looked at it, it's like, how many times did it start with a financial problem?
Hmm.
And my spouse leaves. So like that spouse left, but why did they leave? Well, maybe they were struggling with money. They had an argument about what you spend something on, and then next thing you know, they left. But it started with a financial problem.
Right.
So if I could, help as many soldiers as I can, how many times did I prevent a suicide that they didn't have to worry so much that they didn't know how they're going to put food on the table? The good news about preventing a suicide is that you never know, right? Because it didn't
Right.
happen. Um, so I think there's two things, readiness and then some of those other things that could be happening that you just don't know that you prevented.
Oh, yes, I love that. And it does go a lot deeper, as we know. There's often a misconception that AER is only for soldiers in crisis. Can you explain the full scope of who AER supports? And then can you explain why that reach actually really matters?
Yeah. Well, first of all, there's a lot of misconceptions about AER. Uh, so it is, 90% of what we do, I like to say, is in a crisis moment. But I'll probably name five things that we do that's not just a complete crisis. So we help with childcare when you're PCS. We help with PCS moves. So for those out there that are listening, and because of the government shutdown, you're stuck in a hotel or something, and those bills are racking up because you're in temporary lodging, you should come to AER and we can help you. So those are just a couple of things. And the major one that I can think of right off the top of my head that people don't realize is scholarships. So last year, I don't think $6.5 million dispersed in scholarships. So that's not an emergency. That's just looking out for the long-term well-being of soldiers and their families and workforce development. The soldiers getting ready to get out and they need some help, maybe getting some clothes or something. So we have a few programs to help with soldiers trying to transition out of the Army. Now that sounds weird from the Army's nonprofit because we want you to stay in, but we don't want you to struggle as you get out too. So there's a lot of things that the largest misconception actually has nothing to do with emergencies. It's all about all you do is loans. I was like, yeah. So last year we did $21 million in grants and scholarships. Yeah. So we do a lot in grants. If you just took out the scholarships last year, we still did $12 million in just grants.
Oh, wow.
And everybody thinks all you do is loans. It's not true. So,
Right. Not true. Very, very not true. There are a lot of grants there. Okay. AAR has been around for decades, yet many soldiers still don't fully understand it or are afraid to use it. From a leadership standpoint, where do you think that miscommunication gap starts and how can we bridge it?
well, man, I've been working on this for 2 years. I think every time I take one step forward, I feel like I take two steps back. Is number one, I think sometimes it helps us and it hurts us is that we'll do the active duty campaign. So we're allowed to talk about AER and then raise funds for soldiers, through soldiers. But what happens is that we have to do at AER, we have to make sure that we don't start with please donate to AER. Matter of fact, as the CEO and sometimes lead fundraiser, I never talk about. They're like, Tony, you should probably. I'm like, why do I have to do this? So, I always start with who we are, how we help, and then how to get help. That's it. And a lot of people don't do that. Like, hey, would you like to give to AERs? Like, no, if you got to tell it, who am I giving this money to? And I'll
Right.
say we're the Army's nonprofit. They're like, oh, are you really? I was like, yep. The vice chief of staff is on my board. So that's
Right.
and I asked him the other day, I said, are you on any other boards? He's like, absolutely not. And I said, okay. So we got an Army reg, so we're part of the Army. So that's who we are, because a lot of people don't know that. The second
Right.
time is they don't know how we help. And that's like this huge thing, is that I go out and give these briefs like, okay, we can help with PCS, I just told you about. We can help with childcare, we just told you about. And I was in Germany maybe a year ago, and this Sergeant First Class was like, you know what? When I PCSed, I got to Germany and I had my deposit, then I had my first run spent, I had all these bills just getting into my place. It was $17,000.
Wow.
I just looked at him. I go, we help with that. Right. It's right now, I think it's a 50% loan, 50% grant for your safety deposit. And he looked like, what? Now it's not going to be retroactive. So it's, a year later, don't, come after that.
Right.
But um, so the, so because of the campaign, people will come up and say, you want to help AER with donations, but we forget to tell people who we are, and then how we help. And then we've got 37 categories. We help with basic needs. We help with health and wellness. We've got workforce development. We got care for families, those scholarships, and then a care during crisis, hurricanes, forest fires. So most of the time I tell people, if you're going through financial struggle, the first thing you should do is call AER. But if I could do anything, would give more briefings about how we help soldiers. And that's all I do. When I'm traveling, 90% of the time when I'm talking to a soldier, that's all I talk about. Here's how we help you. And then every time somebody goes, man, I could have come to AER. And the last thing about this is that, I just need people to care. And I want you to know that we care. So if there's something that somebody tells you no, or says that AER won't help with, you send me a note. And I always give out my email, and then people are like, really? That's your email? I was like, yeah, michael.grinston at aerhq.org. If you find you've been wronged, or, now I'm not going to always tell you no or yes, but I'm going to try and do my best to find ways to help you. So who we are, how we help, and how to get help, I forgot, is online. You can go in and fill out an online application. So we just did a huge push because of the government shutdown, and you can go on there. You fill out the application online. It goes to somebody to validate it, and then it gets approved. We disperse through Zelle and ACH right now. So once you do the DocuSign, you usually get your money within 24 hours. So
Oh, wow. That's a
yeah.
very quick turnaround. Yes. So many improvements from my processes when I was in. So that's really good to know and really helpful. Um, Beyond financial relief, what unseen impacts does AER have on morale, retention, and family stability across the force?
Yeah, and this is one, and I'll give you, kind of what we've been doing for the government shutdown, and then this with a story on this too, is that, there's this angst that people weren't going to get paid. So what happens is it creates anxiety, and maybe it's a holdover from COVID, right? So it's like, I'm going to go get every roll of toilet paper known to man. It's like, oh, yeah, you got enough for like the next 100 years, right? So, number one, I was trying to just alleviate the stress. It's, hey, we are going to pay your paycheck. If the Army doesn't pay you, we're going to be here. You're going to not, don't worry about those bills. So just focus in on your job, and we'll do the rest. So trying to alleviate, some of that anxiety that comes with, pay and other things. So that's our number one thing, is just kind of alleviate some of that stress. But I also want to know that people are there for them, that we've got your back. And sometimes I don't want them to feel alone and unafraid, because when you feel that way, you just, you
Right.
know, it's just a bad situation to be. So knowing that AER is going to be there and kind of alleviate some of the stress is probably the number one thing I'd have to say.
Excellent. Excellent. I love that. Many soldiers fear asking for help because they see it as a weakness. What message would you personally send to that private, that specialist, or that sergeant who's struggling but afraid to come forward?
Yeah, I say this all the time. You shouldn't be afraid to go to behavioral health, and you shouldn't be afraid to ask for help financially. And as many times as I talked to formations since I've left, I find it to be so true. Their number one question to me from soldiers when leaders aren't in the room is, please don't tell my chain of command.
Yeah.
And I go, okay,
Yes.
I won't. Um, come to me and we'll help you. So people don't want to tell other people they're struggling, and we're so judgmental sometimes. Like we
Yes.
all got bad days, you know. What I mean? It's like, so if you're struggling with some finances, you don't want to tell your command that I'm struggling because they'll look at you like, what, you know, I've got good and bad, and I'm trying to tell a good story. A good story is a battalion commander called me and said a soldier needed help. The bad story was, we had a soldier get a counseling statement for using AER, like, you need to manage your money better. That is not helpful at
Right.
all.
Not at all.
No, not at all. Because they, really looks, bad. And it's like, well, see, that's why I don't want to use AER because
Right.
they, my chain of command yelled at me. So,
Right.
um, please, if you're listening, chain of command, please don't do that. But if you're a soldier, please know that I'm going to do everything I can to help you. But here's what I found, and I'll tell formations this all the time. Um, 1 in 5 in 4 years will use AER.
Hmm.
So if you look at, we do 31,000, cases every year. Actually, it's 34,000 cases, 31,000 people. So some people need it twice. So 34,000 cases every year. So multiply it times 4. That means almost every 1 in 5 in formation will actually use AER during their tour.
Yeah.
They just don't want to tell you.
Right.
So, like AER doesn't help anybody. It's like, they just don't want to tell you they were struggling. And
Yeah.
we've had assistance requests from '06, E9 and below.
Wow.
And it's
Wow.
like, no, no way, a colonel. Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Them too.
Yep. Yep. People struggle. I mean, and here's the thing is, and I tell everybody is like, you know what? When you get a little bit higher in rank, the bills are actually higher. It's more
Yes.
request. It's not a $500 request. It's a lot more. So,
Yes.
they need help too. Everybody makes, some, things may have gone wrong, or you never know. Life happens.
Right.
So a lot of people need assistance, and we've seen those requests from all ranks.
Excellent. And so you just mentioned that in that 31,000 and 34,000, some people needed it twice. Is there a limit on how many requests you can put in for AER?
We just put restrictions kind of on it. There probably will be a limit at some point, but like if you're a soldier and you come like once or twice, now we are going to make you go to the chain of command. Something may be going on that they need to know about that's in your life. So at certain points, like I think after at least the second or third time, and you're a soldier, we're going to require you to notify your chain of command. So there are some kind of limits, like your allotable pay. So if you're asking for another loan and then you can't even, you know what I mean? There's no
Right.
money left over and you want another loan. It's like, okay, well, that's not going to do any good.
Right.
So there are some restrictions on how we do that. And when we ratchet it up a little bit. So, but we did, like I said, there's 3,000 people that have come back to us more than once in a year.
Excellent. Yeah. So that is case by case.
Yeah.
How has AER evolved in recent years to meet the modern financial challenges soldiers face, like the rising cost of living, PCS moves, and the transitions out of the service?
Yeah, we're constantly changing. And like I said, is when I looked at PCS moves and emergency travel. So those are just two. Is I found that I still remember as a young soldier when I PCSed, I was like, wow, I'll come out of, maybe I make some money if I eat real well and, and be, really good steward. And, as I travel, I'll be really good. I'll maybe, have $100 or two. And then I found as I started to move later in life, it was like, I got no money left over. I'm going in the hole. It's like, this is terrible. Moving shouldn't be, financially, disturbing. And that's
Right.
what I found. And look, if I'm a sergeant major and I'm having that problem, I'm like, what's happening with the young soldiers? So that's why I went. When you get to those new duty locations, we saw the price of housing go crazy.
Yeah.
So that's why we said, well, 50% loan, 50% grant for those move-in costs, for that safety deposit, that first month's rent. So that's one way we have evolved. The second one is in January, we made emergency travel a full grant. We had
Mhm.
50% loan and 50% grant. I was like, well, why would we do that? And emergency Army emergency relief. So and
Right.
really it goes back to my own personal experience. When my mom passed away, I was the sergeant major of the Army and I flew down and I was really lucky to get there before she passed away. I bought a plane ticket, flew down, and then she passed. I was there. So I flew back, got my family, bought 3 plane tickets, flew back.
Right.
And then we're there for the funeral. And then on the way home, thunderstorm hits Atlanta. What I found out, the airlines, that they don't pay for your hotel if there's a thunderstorm. It's not my fault. There's thunderstorms, so I had to pay
Right.
for that with 3 people, and then finally get back. And I was saying, like, man, I racked up a lot of bills, and I'm like, okay, what happens? You're going through such a terrible time, and
Mhm.
now you're just putting one more burden. This is, some of that stress and suicide.
Yes.
It's like, what if we could just take that away?
Right.
You're already going through a really bad time. Let's make that a grant. We don't need to put more stress on. So those two things that we've really tried to change in the last year. That emergency travel just started in January. The PCS changes, I think, started in October, November last year. And the latest one we just got approved is you said who we help. We help active duty, guard, and reserve if they're on Title 10 status longer than 30 days, National Guard, surviving spouses and retirees. Um, we did a brief last Friday to the OCAR, that would be the commander of the Army Reserve, and we got the approval that we're going to assist Army Reserve soldiers full time,
Wow.
regardless of how long they've been on orders. So we will start that in January. So we've got some training to do in the next couple months,
Yeah.
and then we'll get that going. So we're still trying to figure out ways that I can help all soldiers anytime, but this is a program for those that are currently serving. Now, the only part is those that we don't help veterans. If you serve one tour, you didn't retire, or you're a surviving spouse, we'll call somebody because we know a lot of organizations that help veterans. That's just not what we do.
Got it. Okay. Thank you for that clarification. I do have a lot of vets. Looking ahead, how do you envision AER continuing to adapt over the decade to ensure it remains the pillar of strength and readiness within the Army community?
Well, I've said this when I first got in. I said I want AER to be the number one nonprofit, and so I'm still sticking to that. I don't. I got one day. I got to figure out how I'm going to measure this, but we're going to still evolve. And right after we do the Army Reserve, we're going to do our best to get the National Guard full time eligible for AER. We help on a case by case basis. So, again, if you need help, please call us. This happens all the time. We had, let's see, it was flooding, ice storm, followed by flooding, followed by call up for Michigan National Guard.
Oh,
And
wow.
they were still in a Title 32, not on active duty, over 30 days. And the state sergeant major called me and said, hey, we need some help. Soldiers in a bad way. We dispersed over $150,000 in grants
Oh,
to
wow.
help them. So we still help National Guard on a case by case basis. So everybody that starts throwing rocks at you don't help National Guard usually happens every podcast. So
Right.
um so we do help on a case by case basis. My goal is after the Army Reserve, see what we learn from that. We'll start off slow. We're not going to offer everything we do to the Army Reserve, and then once we get that, that'll be our model. And then the next one, add the National Guard. So it took me longer than I anticipated for the Army Reserve. It took like almost 2 years. So hopefully it doesn't take 2 years to add the National Guard. So that's one of the major things that I'm going to try and do in the next couple of years.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Sergeant Major, we are winding down on time for our interview, but I want to thank you for your time and sharing your leadership and insight with us today. For those listening, remember this: AER isn't charity. It's soldiers helping soldiers. It's the Army taking care of its own. And it's one of the most powerful examples of unity we have in this organization. If you've ever found yourself in a tough season or know someone who is, I hope this conversation reminds you that help exists, hope exists, and strength is built through asking. Sergeant Major, thank you again for your continued service to the Army community. It's been an honor to have you on the show. Do you have any closing remarks for the audience?
Yeah, I'd just like to say, for those that are out there, I truly love what I do. I don't like it. I love it. It's something that I didn't think I would love this much, but it's truly a joy to be the CEO for AER, that we get to help soldiers and their families all the time. But we couldn't do it without your support. So we do all this through donations, and our number one donor actually is retirees, not soldiers. So and who are eligible for assistance with AER. So we appreciate all the care that goes into helping soldiers and their families, and I appreciate it. Thank you for having me today.
Absolutely, absolutely. This is a very personal and sensitive one for me, from being in as well, having soldiers, always pushing them to the AER program. And I can say I've been following the AER program now for a couple of years, and I really have seen the change and the impact that you've actually brought to the program. So I would really like to just say thank you from the bottom of my heart, and for everything that you continue to do, and everyone behind the scenes that's helping you as well to really get this mission going and staying in motion. So if you've enjoyed today's episode, share it with a battle buddy, leader, or family member who could benefit from learning about AER. Until next time, stay strong, stay focused, and stay ready. Thank you, Sergeant Major.
Thank you.
I'm Anna Garcia, host of True Crime News, the podcast. Every week, we bring you in-depth coverage on cases making headlines, as well as those that go under the radar. Tune in for murders that defy explanation, mysteries seeking exploration, and shocking secrets that will leave you breathless. Each week, we honor the victims by going beyond the salacious in our search for justice. Crime never stops, and neither do we. Listen to True Crime News, available now on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts.
It's Jay, your favorite drill sergeant. Before you go, I want to leave you with one final thought. Knowledge is powerful, but knowledge without action changes nothing. If today's conversation helped you better understand how your brain works and gave you hope that real change is possible, then I'd love to invite you to take the next steps with us inside the Warriors Haven Inner Circle on School. It's a community built for people who are ready to stop living on autopilot and start building a life rooted in discipline, resilience, and intentional growth. Every week, you'll find practical coaching, mindset training, neuroscience-backed strategies, accountability, and a community of people committed to becoming stronger together. One decision at a time. Again, you can find the Warriors Haven Inner Circle on school.com. That's SKOOL.com. And if this episode resonated with you, I'm excited to share that my first book, The Warriors Haven Edge, is scheduled to release later this year. It's everything I've learned from the military, neuroscience, leadership, and coaching, combined into a practical framework to help you rebuild your identity, reclaim your energy, and create lasting change from the inside out. You can join the exclusive book waitlist today at thewarriorshavenbook.com and be among the first to receive updates, exclusive content, and launch announcements. Again, that waitlist can be found at thewarriorshavenbook.com. Thank you for spending part of your day with us. If this episode encouraged you, challenged your thinking, or helped you see yourself differently, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Your support helps us reach more people who are searching for hope, clarity, and a path forward. Until next time, stay disciplined, stay curious, and never settle for the person you were yesterday. Your next chapter starts with the decision you make today. Until next time, stay strong, stay focused, stay ready. I'll catch you on the next episode.